12, 8, 11, 9 and 17, 13, 10, 11, 2, 11, 5, 4, 11, 5, 14, 9, 12, 8, 7, 15, 4, 10.
Okay, let's just wait for 5 more minutes
8,
so people can join us.
10, 4, 13. Wait.
All right, guys, should we start? Can anybody see my screen, my PowerPoint slide? Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the recycler view. And the way that this came about was after when I'm done with the recycler view, I decided to do a brain dump. And instead of doing a brain dump, I decided to make it into a story, some sort. So when I come back later on, I will know what my thinking was and what I've learned, right? So this is about, of course, recycle view, but in a fun way. Okay, so it's kind of like a story, and I believe that by teaching using some story narrative, people will learn quicker and stick to their brain. Okay, so let's get started. So here's a backstory, just a little backstory. So on your left, this is Steve, right? So now say hi to Steve. Hey, Steve. So Steve graduated from a Bachelor of Views at the University of Android Studio. It's very, abstract. Then he got his master's in text view, right? So you can think of Steve as a text view, but at the same time, he's also a view. So for example, like if you're studying for a doctorate degree, right? Like a doctorate degree, you will then specialize into a, like oncologist or neurologist or something like that. Basically, Steve itself is a view, but at the same time, he's also a text view, okay? So Steve works at your company, okay, which is an app, display marketing material to some users, right? Steve specializes in displaying data. Okay, the only thing he does in your company is to display data. Okay, but and here's a catch, right? Like many other views, right, in that university, all of them who graduated from that bachelor's degree cannot ever own data. Okay, what does that mean? It means that for Vue, its responsibility is only to display data. It cannot own the data that it is displaying. So the reason why that is because, say, for example, if you are building a music, like Spotify clone, right? And for each band or each singer, they have albums, right? Well, if the Vue owns those data, owns those album data, then if you scroll through the list of songs, all of the views that represents each of the individual songs will have that own model, which can easily overload your application, right? So that is the golden rule: is that Vue cannot ever own the data that it is displaying. Okay, the data is only handed to them, but they cannot ever own them. Okay, now this rule applies to when you're designing or developing for iOS application as well. They stress that views cannot ever own their data. So let's move on. Oh yeah, and you should always see views, text view, button views, recycler views, whatever the view is. You should always see them as your workers, right? Let's see. Hold on. Why can't they own their data? Okay, so let me rephrase that again. The reason why views cannot own their data is because, imagine this, right? You're building a Spotify clone, and and for example, hypothetically, you're building it on a architectural pattern such as a MVC pattern, right? So you have your model, view, and your controller. Okay. Now, if your view owns the data that it is displaying, basically what you're implying is that your view also owns your model, which is absolutely unacceptable. That's the main reason why we have controllers, is that it delegates between the model and the view. Okay, you cannot cross the line without letting the view controller know, right? Well, I mean, like if you're saying, for example, building a I can't think of, well, maybe a Spotify clone, right? If you own all the album details and all the music content for each of, so for example, if you're building a recycler view, you wouldn't want each row to own the whole album data, right? Because that will easily overload your application. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay, let's move on. So now here's how interfaces interact with activities. And if you guys are curious, I've developed in iOS as well, and this is very similar to how views interact with activities, or views interact with view controllers. Okay, so on a typical day of work, your boss, which is this guy over here, this evil guy over here, gives some sort of a string or some material for the text view to display. Okay, so say, hey, Steve number one, set your text to 50% off, right? And Steve will say, oh, okay, here, 50% off. And Steve number two dot set text say, hey, display buy one get one free. Okay, and Steve will, he will comply and say, hey, buy one get one free. But notice this thing is that it is only a one directional. Can you change your view option at the top of the screen? So, okay. Like that? Side by side. Okay. So notice that the communication between your boss and the text views, which is the Steves, is only one directional. Okay. So so you can think about it like this, right? Without the boss, the Steve doesn't know what to do, right? Their existence are meaningless. Okay. Now you have your boss. The boss hands the data to Steve's, and the Steve displays it. So it's only one directional communication. And also remember that the boss has no way of knowing what the user is, how the user interacts with the Steves, right? So for example, if the user wants to, hey, 50% off or buy one, get one free. Hey, I want to know some more. The boss doesn't know when is that happening, right? It doesn't know the interaction between the user and the text view. So since that in the beginning, I said that, okay, Steve only knows how to display data, right? But it can do some more, right? Displaying data is their default behavior. So if you want to have some more functionality, you would implement a interface. So, okay, so boss thinks to himself, hey, I need to know if the user has tapped on the Steves so I can throw some more annoying ads and marketing junk onto their faces, right? So the next day, the boss went to and talked to those Steves. So hey, Steves, look, I know you need to, I need you to do some extra work for me, okay? I need you to tell me if a user has tapped on you or not, okay? There's a typo there, don't worry about it. And the Steve said, hey, sure, man. I'm all for you. Like, I'm new to this company or whatever. Sure, since this is an extra task for me, I need you to sign this contract. Okay, so Steve hands the boss this on-click handler contract. So, okay, so inside of this contract, he or she who implements this contract has to define this on-click function. Okay, so just coming out of this story, just general talk, interfaces are basically undefined functions, right? Activities, when they implement interfaces, you think of it as you're adding more functionality to the activity. The methods inside of the interface, you never call them. They are called outside of you. Okay, you only define what you want to happen. For example, in this example, on-click listener, what do you want to do if a user has clicked on the Steves, right? So let's continue. Okay, so the boss, he signs the contract, happily signs the contract. It's nothing too damning to worry about. So notice it says override, public void, on-click view. Now, for any interfaces, you always override, right? That's a given. Now, this parameter here is passed in. This is why it's called a callback, right? Well, semi-callback. This parameter is the view that is tapped, right? So you'll see more in a second. So in this, okay, just go back a little bit. Is anything, do you want me to clarify or should I just continue? Is everybody okay? Sweet, okay. So I just want to go back to this if statement here. Um, so if the view is equal to Steve, then okay, I'll have some more marketing bullcrap for you. If Steve is oh, that should be number 2. Sorry, another typo. Then I'll display another wave of irrelevant discounts for you. Okay, so it's checking which Steve is tapped, right? So the Steve is saying, okay, the last thing is you need me to report. You need to tell me who to report to. Okay, so this where this parts come in. Okay, if you don't set those to this is the boss. This word here, this is related to the boss. Okay, so by setting on click listener to this, that means it's saying, okay, this Steve here is reporting to the boss. Okay, so working with the new contract, so the user taps it, and then it calls the on-click view function. Now you see how before the boss only communicates to the view. Now the view communicate back to the boss, right? Hence the green arrow here. So again, the user can click on another Steve, and then another Steve will fire off an on-click function to notify the boss, basically. So the key learning point here is view should never own the data that it's displaying. If you want the view to communicate back to the boss, right, then you implement an interface, right? So it will become a bi-directional communication. And also the individual view needs to know itself needs to know who itself needs to report to. So that point is you have to set so Steve1 dot set on click listener to this, right, where this is the boss. So okay, now let's get to the key point of this session is recycler view, right? So a recycler view, so I've introduced a new character. His name is Oscar. So like Steve, he's also graduated from the University of Views. The Bachelor of Views, studied under University of Android Studio, and he's got his master's in recycler view, right? So the point I'm trying to get across here is that even though Oscar is a recycle view, but he's still a view, he's still a view. He still shouldn't own the data that he is displaying. So the specialty of this should be Oscar. I'm sorry, more typos. Oscar's specialty is to display items in a list. Okay, I'm sure we all know what that is. So like many others who's graduated from Bachelor of Views, she cannot own the data it is handed to them. You can only display them, but not to own them, okay? You should always see views are your workers, like your minions, right? And this is what most people say, most developer will tell you when you're developing in the iOS platform, is that views are your minions. They should never be, they're cheap, they're laborers. They do nothing but to display items, text or whatever to the user. Okay, they're workers. So one day the boss decided to throw away the Steve because he thought that, well, if I can just hire Oscar to display all the one person displaying all of the marketing material, why would I need that many Steves, right? So so yes. So hey, Steves, you are fired. Okay, so Steves are no longer in the picture. In come the Oscar. So here's Oscar. Say, hey Oscar. Okay, here's a list of things that I want you to display. So the boss hands in a string array of just marketing material. It's an array of strings basically, and say, no, Oscar doesn't work that way. He says that, hey, sorry, boss, but I only work with adapters. Okay, so there's a layer in between the boss and Oscar. Okay, and the layer in between is the adapter. Okay, so boss asks Oscar, well, how does adapter work? So first of all, this is a introduction to how adapters work and what they do. Okay, so adapters tells Oscar, the recycler view, where to look for that formatting of the individual item on your list, right? So so per list you can have, I don't know, a summary of the discount and then the expiry date of that discount. So you would have, I don't know, 2 text views or whatever. Okay, and the adapter tells the recycler view how to display them. Okay. So an adapter is initialized by the data that you want to display. So you're no longer handing your you're no longer handing your data to Steve directly, but you're handing your data to the adapter, and the adapter initializes, and then the adapter goes to Oscar. Okay, the data never goes to the recycler view directly. Okay. So I will use that information to provide an adapter to do my job. Okay, so Oscar, in order to do his job correctly, he needs an adapter. Okay, so adapter needs 4 things. Okay, so the first thing is that it needs to know what is the view holder. So view holder, you can think of it as the list, the row on your recycle view. Okay, it's not the individual item inside the row. It's the row. It's that row. Okay. And also how the data should be populated, and that is under the public void onBind view holder. Where can I? Oh yes, and this is telling the adapter where should I find this XML, the appearance of the row, and how do I instantiate them. And then lastly, the get item count. Now the get item count can often be, it's very easy to implement. You just return the amount of things you have in your data, right? So you can have like an array list or a list or just an array, and you will just return dot size or dot length, right? But often people, when they get into trouble, this is often get left out. I would say this is probably the most important override method, because this drives the recycler view, right? So no matter how many data you have, when you initialize your adapter, if this isn't right, so for example, if this somehow returns 1 or something, that you will only display 1 item on your recycler view. So this is public void get item count. That is the driving force of your recycler view. Okay, it is the driving force of your recycler view. So you have to get that right. This is the driving force of your recycler view. And you can read some more.
Y'all side with the generation or the point of view that says I don't deserve a platform, or I shouldn't be here, or whatever. So y'all just trying to expose me and get clickbait headlines like the Tupac thing. So they're on guard.
Hold on. Hey Sheldon, you're not muted.
Get your name, Takashi 69. What do you say?
Okay, cool. So let's continue. So is there any questions that you guys want to ask me, or is this fine? Am I talking okay, or can I just get some feedback before I continue?
Yeah, I think this is good.
Yeah, I think you're doing good. I can hear you clear.
Okay,
Yes,
cool.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So let's continue. By the way, I'll have a live coding session, so this will come all the way around and then into this code. Okay, so let's look at one of the examples. Sorry, the exercises Udacity provided. Okay, so inside of your onCreate, it is. I know there's a lot going on, but it really isn't anything complicated. Okay, onCreate view holder basically tells the adapter how to look, or where to look for that layer, that row that you have designed. Where can I look for that? Okay, so here's what it's saying: int layout ID for list item is equals to r.layout dot blah 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 blah. This is locating. Okay, where in the file can I locate this this XML? Okay. Now, another very important thing here is whenever you try to initialize a view, right? You always need to have some sort of an inflator. Okay. So in this case, what this is saying is, okay, let's go back to the first line here. Context equals the view group dot get context, right? And oftentimes, at least for me, I get tripped up on that line right there because I don't know what that means. Well, now I kind of know what that means. It basically means that in your override public number view holder, onCreate view holder, view group int view type. Okay, now view group is the recycler view. Okay, it is where. So you can imagine in your main activity, you have your main activity XML, right? And hypothetically, that is where your recycler view lives, right? So this view group here is that recycler view. It's the recycler view itself, right? So what this is saying is, okay, from your recycler view, get the context that the recycler view is living in right now, okay, which is the main activity. So now you have a handle to the context of the main activity. Now you can instantiate the layout inflator from the activity where the recycle view is living in. Okay, so that's what this means. This means that you are getting the handle to the main activity. Okay, good, great. Second line is saying, okay, where can I look for that layout XML? Okay. Now, if you guys confused about that, the r.layout, it is that. So if you look to the right, you can see that there's a 0, there's a text view holder, index 0, whatever. That thing, this whole thing, not the individual text view, is the whole layout. Okay, this is a layout. Okay, this is telling where to look for that. Okay. And then layout inflator. Okay, I'll cover that. Also, okay, this often trip people up as well. The reason why you want to set that to false is because, okay, it's better for me to explain. If this, okay, so if this is true, what you are returning from this line here is the root plus the view holder. Well, what is the root here? The root is your recycler view. So if you say, okay, Boolean should attach to parent immediately equals true, this view here, you are not getting the view holder. You are getting the recycle view and the view holder, because this is returning the root. Okay, this is returning the root. If you set that to false, you're not returning the root. You're only returning whatever the view that you are inflating, right? So I hope that makes sense. I can explain some more if people want me to, okay? And this
is there an example of when we would want that set to true? Like
I've never encountered a situation where I want to, example, if you want to instantiate a fragment where you want to get the view and the root of the view, so you might want to do something like that. But in this case, because what this is saying is that what this is doing is that you're instantiating a view holder, right? The main purpose here is I just want the view holder, nothing else. I don't want any recycle views, nothing else. When you see on create view holder, just think about view holders only. Okay, nothing else, nothing else.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so moving on. Now, inside of your adapter, you should have an inner class called something on the line of view holder, number view holder, things like that, okay? And that extends from recycle view holder. And I think someone is not muted. Can you guys check? Okay, thanks. So this inner class is also very important, right? So this, now, okay, let me go back. Now, create view holder only cares about the layout, okay? The layout. The view holder, the class view holder extends view holder, sorry, let me go back. A class view holder extends recycle view holder. That class only cares about what's inside of that layout. Okay, what's inside of that layout. So let me go back. On create view holder only cares about the layout. On create view holder only cares about the layout. This class here, basically what this is doing, you're basically building a object that wraps around that layout. So here you can see text view, list item number view, and then text. So you have two text views here, right? So you create a handle so that later on in your on-bind view holder, you can use those handles and then tell the adapter how to populate your layout. Is that making sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For me, yes, sir.
Okay. Now you see here, text view holder index, right? I have a handle here. Great. Why do I want to have a handle there? It's because on your on-bind view holder, I want to access that text view so that I can populate it. Okay. Let me repeat that. The reason why I want to have a handle here is because in my on-bind view holder, I want to get access to that handle so that I know how to populate them. Okay. Okay, this is just reiterating. Okay, so this is basically the same half of the slide from the previous slide. This is the on-bind view holder, and you can yes. So you see how it says on-bind view holder, number view holder, comma, integer position, right? This view holder here, this holder is this object, is the number view holder. It's the class number view holder. And if you say, okay, holder dot, it will show up these handles here, and then that's where you want to tell the adapter how I should populate each row, okay? And you should use the position to drive that, okay? Because recycled view, you have individual rows, and individual rows they represent by integer, which is the position, okay? So let's recap and bring everything back together, right? So you have your data that you want to display, okay? Think of it as three separate parts, okay? The data that you want to display, okay? Data that you want to display, fine. Now you have an adapter, right? The adapter is where the instruction lives, right? It tells people, it tells the askers where to look for that list item layout, and then gets a handle of the individual views of that layout so that I know how to populate them. And then, okay, so this initializes with the adapter, okay? Now, initializing the adapter using the data, for example, so in this adapter, you can have something like a public green adapter. This is basically coming off of the course, right? So it initializes it. So then you have your recycle view, and all of that plugs into the recycler view, okay? And that's what this is. Now, don't worry about the code. I will go over it in a real demo. So that's the end of that. So let's jump straight ahead to the demo. Now I'm going to start completely fresh here, and I'm running purely off of memory. Okay, so there could be a point where everything just falls apart, but I'm trying not to. Android Studio. Okay, why it's not showing me that? Oh, there.
While you're doing that,
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, is there a way to get your slides for you to post the slides?
Sure. Yeah, I'll post the slides on the Recycler View channel.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, it's loading on the other screen. Okay. Can everybody see okay?
I can.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'll just call this Recycler View, just for simplicity. Yes, click next, empty. Yes. Okay. Okay. By the way, guys, just feel free to ask me any questions, okay? All right. Too many things open here. So let me close those. Okay. So, can someone mute? Okay.
I have to find it. They gave the link now. Yeah, before they gave me only phone number. So the second lecture, I think we're in the end of it. Okay. Just click on the link that we use open Zoom.
Okay. Can Patricia? Can you just mute for a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you. So the first thing that we should do is we should set the dependency for this recycler view. And I had a reason why we should do that, but I cannot remember at this point. But in order to use the recycler view, you have to set the dependency, okay? So let's set the dependency. So I go under File, project structure. Ooh, where is it? Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so you go under apps, dependency, add, library dependency, and you just type in recycler view. Okay, click OK, click OK. Now, this is very important, right? You see you have app compat here. Now, as far as I know, I'm not sure if I'm correct, and if someone knows the answer, please correct me, is that whatever the dependency that you're adding, it has to be lower than this number or in sync with that number. So I'm gonna put it in sync with that number to make that work. Oh, that's 26.
You have to number it in sync with the version.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that. Okay, now it's syncing. Okay. So, okay, cool. So, okay, so for example, let's say I want to have a recycler view in my main activity, okay? So I'll go under main activity and to build this. Okay, so it's still running. Don't save. Okay, great. Yes, we're doing the coding section now. So in here, this is my main activity, okay? So what I want to do here is first of all, set this to linear layout, just because I like linear layout. Linear layout. Okay, so let's, okay, so let me cancel this, and I want to have a recycler view. Or recycler, come on, autocomplete. Yes. Okay, and I'm just going to match parent. So I'm going to match the layout of my parent, which is the linear layout. Okay, and I'm going to set an ID. Okay, so ID, come on. And just going to say recycler view, mainnet, well, just main, and then RV. Okay, cool. So that's done. Now what I want to focus on is my individual rows, right? What do I want to have display per row? So I go under layout resource and I type in layout item layout RV. And this can be a linear layout. And .xml, awesome, click OK. Okay, so in here, this is where you design your rows. Okay, so let's say I want, and by the way, this is not a, you shouldn't copy the way I design my UI because I'm a terrible UI designer. This is only to demonstrate a point, right? So I want the text view to wrap around my content.
Excuse me, Brandon.
Sure. Go ahead.
Can you zoom on the code, like, because we can't see the.
Oh, sure. Sure. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, it's in the preference. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, you have to guide me here. So where do I?
Okay, I think it's in appearance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then okay, hold on. Oh, I think it's in the editor. Yeah, it's not in the appearance.
Sure.
Yeah. And general. Where was it? I think console maybe.
Console.
Okay. I think I should.
Wait.
But it's somewhere here. I remember.
Font. Oh, there.
Yeah, I just increase the size.
Okay, hold on. That's
All
too
right.
big. That's too big. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Is this better?
Yeah, much
Okay,
better.
can you guys see? Okay,
I
Yes.
can.
Okay,
Okay.
let me just make it 22. Okay. So let me set my ID for the text view. I don't know, marketing, material, text view. And then I'm going to have another text view. Okay, so again, wrap content, and I'm going to have another ID. I'm just going to say discounts, right? Text view. Okay, cool. So this is my layout. And hold on, let me set this to horizontal. Great. Let me just rearrange everything. Okay, let's see how it looks, okay? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, I need to set a text. So set text. Text, that's right. Text, I can say marketing, material, and I'm gonna set, the size to maybe about 30 or something, or 20. This counts to 20. Okay, and I'm gonna have a margin to the left. Sorry, to the right. Maybe 10 dp. Okay, let's see how it looks. So it looks okay. It doesn't have to be fancy. I just want to make a point. Okay, so now the layout is done. Okay, now let's close this for a second. And let's focus on the adapter. Okay, so I'm going to create an adapter, which is a Java class. I'm just going to call it discounts adapter. Click OK. Cool. So the first thing you need to do is that you need to extend this class to recyclerview dot adapter, just capital. Okay, so it's looking for a parameter type. The parameter type here that it's looking for is nothing more than the view holder inside of your discount adapter, okay? So we're gonna say, we haven't constructed that class yet, but we're gonna do so pretty soon. So view holder, okay? Awesome, so inside of our class here, we're just going to say class view holder extends recycler view dot view holder. Great. Now, because there are other implementations that we're going to put in, so we might as well put those in right now. So okay, and hopefully those error will go away. Cool. Awesome. So let's construct our view holder first. So in order for the onCreate view holder to create a view holder, we need to have a constructor, right? So constructor public view holder, and this will take in a view, right? Okay, so because I am extending recyclerView.viewHolder, I need to satisfy my superclass's constructor. So I'm going to pass in my view. Cool. And now the view holder, it needs to know what's inside of my layout. So I can go text view, okay. Discount material equals to, oh no, hold on. Yeah, I'm just going to create a handle. And then text view dot, text view, oh, that's marketing material. Marketing material, good. And here we're just going to say discounts material. Cool. So in here, now this class here is going to be initialized by onCreate view holder. Okay. So the constructor parameter, that's the view holder. So from that information, I can say marketing view holder, marketing material equals to view dot find view by ID, and I'm just going to put in r.id dot marketing material. That's yep. And then discount material goes to view dot find view dot id dot discount tc. Okay, that should be TV. And I think that's it. So let's focus on this thing now. Now, as I mentioned, this is creating my view holder, right? So in order to create a view, I need to have a layout inflator. So to get that, we need to have a handle on the context. Okay, so context equals to parent dot get context. Great. So in here we can say layout inflator is equals to layout inflator dot from. So where do I want my layout inflator from? Well, from the context where the recycle view is living in. Okay, great. So the view therefore is equals to inflator dot inflate, and I'm going to pass in my 3 parameters. My parameter 1 is, okay, what layout do you want me to inflate? Okay, well, it's going to be this one. Layout item RV. Okay, and what's the second one? Oh yeah, and it's going to be the parent, and I'm going to set this to false. Remember, false just means that I do not want to attach it to the, not immediately, don't return me with the recycler view. And then I'm just going to return new view holder. I'm going to pass in the view. Okay, great. So I have created my view holder by using these 3 lines here. Okay, so now let's create some data. So array list. This can be a string. I'll just call it m data. Okay, so this is the marketing data that we're gonna throw to the user, and we're gonna need to have a constructor. So public discount adapter. I'm gonna have it taken a array list of strings. That's gonna call data. Okay, so m data is equals to data. Cool. So in my onBind view holder, this holder here can get access to these text views. So we can say something like, we can say something like holder dot marketing discount. Let's just say discount is corresponded to the position of the recycler view for simplicity's sake, right? Dot set text is equals to integer, because it only takes in a string. So I'm gonna cast this to a string. Okay, great. And then holder dot marketing dot set text. I'm gonna say m data dot get. I think it's get, yeah, and then position. Now pay attention, guys. The reason why I'm able to do this is because I have already told the adapter what's inside of my view holder, so that in my onBind view holder, I'm able to access these text views. So I can tell the adapter, or I can tell Oscar how to populate them. Okay, and this is very important as well. So m data dot size. Okay, great. So I believe that I have everything here. Hopefully this doesn't crash on me. So let's go back. So
So when you mentioned earlier that get item count is something that a lot of people forget, and sounds like they forget to make it dynamic, just like you did,
right,
and they
yeah,
just like throw a number in there, right?
correct. Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So in my main activity, I'm going to set my recycler view. So recycler view, let's just call it Oscar. Oscar.rv. Okay, so I'm going to locate Oscar by saying dot find, no. So Oscar equals to find view by ID r dot ID dot RV, this one. Okay, so here I need to set a couple of things. So I need to let Oscar know what is the adapter. Okay, so in here I'm going to say discount adapter. and here I'm going to initialize that adapter to the discount adapter, right? So new discount adapter, and I'm just going here. Okay, I'm just going to make up a bunch of gibberish. So, oops. It's called data equals to, I think I need to import that. Okay. New array list string. And okay, so arrays dot as list, and here I can pass in things like buy one get one free. I don't know, and then buy two get one free or something. Get one free. Okay, so I'm going to initialize that using that data. Cool. So now I'm going to set Oscar to that adapter. So set adapter adapter. Oscar, and then set fix. Now this, what this does, hold on. This, you always sort of want to set that to true because if you don't, then the system will calculate the individual size that it requires to display that data. It's a little bit more computationally expensive, but you can always set that to true just to make things run smoother, right? And so, okay, why is this giving me an error? Oh, what? Oh, okay. Okay. So I believe I have everything. So let me double check this again. It looks fine. Adapter. Oh, yes. Now, what's cool about Recycle View is that instead of displaying it on a list, you can display it in other various ways. You can find this out, but for simplicity, I'm just going to say, I want to display this in a linear manner. Okay, so manager is equals to, I believe it's new linear, no, is it new linear? About this, I think. Whoops. Yes. And then I believe you can have like a scattered layout manager or something. And this basically, this in charge of how the appearance of your rows, okay? So, and then here I'm gonna say set layout, set layout manager to the manager. Okay, I believe I have everything. So let's click. Okay, do you guys have any questions at all?
I don't. I work great when you're writing code like this.
Oh, okay.
It's clear for me.
Okay, good.
Brandon, I was wondering,
Sure.
is this video being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Is it going to be available on the Slack group afterward?
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
So later on, if you guys have time, I can implement a on-click listener for these individual list items, so you can see, going back to that PowerPoint slide, how the on-click listener work and everything. So this is running really, really slow. Apology, guys.
While we're waiting for it to load, is that okay if we kind of, I understand what you did with the code for the most part, but just to make sure I understand what everything's doing, could we quickly step through?
Sure.
Kind of like how you explained it in the beginning, but
Sure.
just kind of quickly step through and point out what each thing is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when you create a recycle view, you always need to design your adapter, right?
Yep.
So inside of your discount adapter, if you are displaying marketing information, whatever, there are basically 4 things that you want to consider, right? 4 things. One is, and you need to create a class that can wrap around your layout. So what do I mean by that? So for example, in each row of your recycler view, let's say you have 4 text views and 1 image view, okay? So inside of your layout, you have 4 text views and 1 image view. So first thing you want to do is to create a class that can get a handle on these 4 text views and 1 image view, okay?
And that's the view holder?
Yes, and that's the inner class view holder. Let me scroll to it. This one. But because I have only 2 text views there, I only need 2 handles, okay? Think of it as handles, right? Because in my on-bind view holder, I want to get access to that to those handles so that I can know what to do with them, right? And that's where that parameter comes in. That holder here, that is that class. That is this class here.
Okay.
Right? And position is just that as the recycler view populates the list, this can increment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Right.
And this part here, get item count, this is another very important thing, is that this drives it, right? So if you get this wrong, no matter how many data that you have in your M data here, it will not display properly. So this is the driving force. It drives the recycler view, okay? It drives the recycler view. Okay, now the second thing I want to point out is this piece of code here. This is nothing more than just this is nothing more than just inflating a XML. It's really that's what it's doing, okay? But to instantiate a layout, you need to get a context, right? Because layout only lives in an activity. There's no point to have a layout inside of a model class or something, right? That's the activity's job. The activity's job is to provide you as a developer a layout inflator so that you can display it onto the activity. Okay. Now, since this is not a activity, this is an adapter. Okay. So to get the context, you need to know where that recycler view is living in, and that is why they provide you with that parent. That parent, it's that recycler view that is living in. Sorry, it is the yes. it is that recycler view that you're trying to use, right? So from that, I can get the context, right? So it's passively, I'm going through the recycler view, and the recycler view knows where it's living in, right? It's living in the main activity. So from that point, from that fact, I can get the context, okay? Now, here, this is nothing more than to say, okay, I want the linear inflator, the inflator from that context. Can you give that to me? Okay, yes, so I have the inflator here. So using that inflator, I'm able to inflate the r.layout XML, okay? Parent, you need to specify where this is going to, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to attach to it, okay? If you set that to true, this view, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I'm pretty sure it's right. This view here becomes a recycler view because you're saying that, okay, attached to root is true, that root is the recycler view. Okay?
Okay.
So
yep.
you don't want that. You don't want that. The point of onCreate view holder is to onCreate the view holder, right? You just care about the view holder. So once I got that view holder, I can initialize my view holder here. Okay, great. So let's move on to the onBind view holder. The onBind view holder simply tells the adapter so using my data that is initialized here, how do you want me to display it? Now this is easy. This is very easy. Basically, this holder again is this class here. Okay, this is this class here, and then because you have handles here, therefore I can access these handles and I can use it. Okay, that's the gist of it.
That makes sense.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let me just retry and reboot this here. Okay, I think that it will work fine because this is running too slow, and I want to get on to our next topic, which is really quick, just 10 minutes, is to, okay, now you want to have an on-click listener, okay? So for example, for each layout, you want to have the user to be able to tap on it and then display another activity, right? Which is, it's very common practice, right? So how do you do that? Now, using the analogy that we just talked about, which is signing contracts and all that stuff, we can go to the discount activity or the discount adapter, and we can say that, hey, view holder here, I want to implement an on-click listener. Now, let me do this and I'll explain it. On-click. I'm not sure why it's not installing. It's going so slow. But on-click listener. Now, whenever, and this is a very good thing to remember, okay? Whenever you implement an interface, right? Think of it as that class has a new superpower, okay? It has a new superpower, but where is that superpower coming in? How does it get the superpower? It gets the superpower from the methods that is inside of that interface, okay? So, come on. Okay, let me do this correctly. Okay. Now let me just say that again. Whenever a class implements an interface, you're basically saying, basically you can think of it as that class has now a superclass. But what is that? Sorry, a superpower. But what is that superpower? That superpower is the methods that are inside of that interface. So if you look at the view, the on-click listener, what is that superpower? The superpower is that it enables you to listen for the views that are being clicked, right? So again, when you implement an interface, you're basically giving the class a superpower. What is that superpower? That superpower is the method inside of that interface. So in the context of view.onClick listener, that superpower is the ability to listen for clicks, right? But you have so many views inside of your app. So what is being listened to, right? So therefore, you have to set the view here that set on click listener to this. Now, okay, let me go back. Because what you are trying to do right now is, instead of displaying advertisement row by row, I want to be able to let the user tap on those rows and then direct them into a web page. Anything, I don't know, anything. So all of these lists needs to be able to listen for tabs, right? It needs to be able to know what is being tapped, right? That's where this line comes in and say, hey, on-click listeners, you are now responsible to listen for users tab. You're responsible now because why? You have signed this contract. So now you're delegating that signal to me now, to this class now. And then here, you can say something like, oh, by the way, I forgot one thing. Now, because this is only an adapter, it's no use to tell the adapter, a list has been clicked. It doesn't do anything because it's not a activity. So what you actually need to do is that you need to set up an interface. Remember, interface equals superpower. Interface equals superpower. So I can say on item click listener. Let's make that public. I'm going to say void on item clicked. Okay, Emma, I'm going to pass in the position. Okay, let me explain this. So I'm creating a contract that will enable people who implement this interface to be able to listen for the on item click. So what's going on here? So basically, I can do something like this. I can say, hold on item listener. Okay, and this is where you guys should really ask questions because this is really, really hard for me to explain. So definitely feel free to ask me any questions or stop me so I can answer your question so everything is clear. So it can say this dot listener equals to listener. Okay, why do I want to do that? I mean, what am I doing here? The reason I'm doing this is because I am creating an outlet for people who is using me as an adapter. I want to be able to allow, this is so hard to explain, for them to listen. so that I can provide them with the information. What information? This information. Okay, this information, I want to create an outlet so that people can listen to it. And that's the reason why I have that there. So let's do this. So I'm going to set the listener dot onclicked view dot get sorry, get adapter position, right? Cool. So if you go back to the main activity here, now I need a superpower, right? What is that superpower? Is to listen for the rows that has been clicked, right? So I can say, what's that adapter's name? Okay, discount adapter. Discount adapter dot onClick listener. So I go implement. Okay. So now whenever a user is tapped onto the list, this gets triggered. This will automatically get triggered, and then this parameter here will correspond to which row the list has been clicked. Okay. Okay, this one, I need to set this to this, because this activity is now also a discount adapter on item click listener. Okay. So what am I going to do? So let's go even further and say, hey, I want to create a new activity. So let's create a new activity, and just going to say detailed activity. Detail activity. Finish. Cool. So on my layout,
Is this activity gonna basically, like when they click something, is this activity gonna launch?
yes.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
correct. So I'm just going to do it really quick. So text view, come on, auto complete. Oh, I know. Okay, so just let me copy these so it's quicker. And I'm going to set this to a linear layout. Okay, so I'm going to say detailed and detailed. Whoops. Okay. Cool. So when the user clicks on it, this activity pops up. Okay, the detailed activity pops up. So what I'm going to do here is let me go back to my main activity. Now remember, this function gets triggered whenever a user taps on one of the rows. Okay, so I can do this. So I can do intent equals new intent, and I'm gonna go from this, which is what I'm doing here is an explicit intent. So I'm gonna go from this to a detailed activity.class. And import class, please. Cool. Now, what's cool about intent, and this is why I really like coding on Android Studio than developing on iOS platform, it's because on the iOS platform, whenever you want to give data to another controller, you always need to instantiate them. So instantiating a view controller is very, very tricky, and it's very difficult, very nasty. What this is doing is great. Like, I can just set an intent, and I can just put extras. I can say, okay, extra, let's say it's marketing. So the key is marketing, and what is the value? The value will just be, oh, I should really do this at the top so I can get access to it. Okay. So there will be the data, is it data? Is it called data? Yes, data dot get position, or get, and then I'm going to pass in the position. Cool. So, and then intent dot put extra, I can say discounts. And then this could just be the position, right? I'm just doing this to illustrate my point. So in here, in my detail view, I got what? I got two text views, right? So text view, detailed, marketing, material, text view. And here I got text view, detail, discount, text view. Okay, come on. So on my on create, I need to tell this activity where to look for it. So detail, discount, text view is equals to find view by ID, and then r.id.detail, and then you go detail marketing material equals to find view by ID dot detail marketing. Oh, I want to mention something. The reason why, when you watch that video about, oh, it's very expensive to call find view by ID. The reason why find view by ID can be expensive is when you have a view hierarchy that is very long. Because what find view by ID simply does is that from that hierarchy, it looks for that view. So you can think of it as like a tree or something, right? The higher the taller the tree is, the harder it is for the system to parse those tree and to get the view that you want. So that's what they meant by sometimes it is very difficult, not difficult, but very computationally expensive to call find view by ID. It is really expensive if you have a very nested view hierarchy. Like you can have, for example, right, you can have a linear layout, and inside of that linear layout, you can have a relative layout, and then inside of that relative layout, you can have a constraint layout, and you can have all of those views. And for example, marketing discount text view, marketing bullcrap text view, or whatever. It takes a very long time for the system to parse those hierarchy. That's what they meant by, oh, it's very difficult for the system to call that whenever a list is showing up. That's why recycle view, they cache that position so that it doesn't have to be called again. It calls once, but it's never been called again because the view doesn't move. It doesn't move around that hierarchy. It just stays still, right? So the reason why recycle view is very efficient is because it caches those positions, okay? It finds it once and that's it, okay? So hopefully that's useful for you guys. Okay, so so here, okay, so here I can say get intent dot get string. Is it get string? Oh, no, sorry. Get extra and then dot get string. That's right. Okay, so what is the key? I think the key is marketing. Now, typically what you will want to do is, because you never want to have a string literal inside of any parameter, you would want to have that set in the string.xml, so it's a constant, right? But this is back practice, okay, guys? I'm just showing you, I'm just illustrating a point here. And, okay, so I'll get the key. Oops. And then let's just set this to string marketing BS. Cool. And then I'm going to have int discount BS or whatever. Okay, get intent, get extra, and then I'm going to get my integer. And I believe the key is discount. Okay, let me make sure that I got my keys right. Marketing discounts. Okay, cool. So I got those handles. So now I can do this. So marketing, sorry, detail marketing dot set text equal, oh no, not equals, marketing BS. And then detail discount dot set text. Okay, so integer dot toString discount BS. Okay. So let's run this. Hopefully it lets me run. Okay, I'm just checking through to see if everything is correct. So yes, 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 yes. So is this clear to you guys? Like, is this useful? Like, this is my first time doing like intense training, so.
Yeah, really useful to me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's incredible. I'll be going over the video again, but this is great.
Cool. Appreciate it.
I'll be checking out pretty soon, Brendan, but I just appreciate the session. It's been incredible.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad it's useful.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure why it's not running it, but instead of just sitting around waiting for it, I believe this will run. I don't see anything wrong with the code. So if you guys have any question you want to ask me, feel free.
I'm curious, after the session, when you post the slides, can you also post the working code?
Sure.
Assuming this code works, I'm sure after the session you'll probably be able to get it working, and then that would be awesome.
Sure.
Okay.
There might be some little bugs here and there, but yeah, I mean, I can't, for some reason, it's just not loading it. I'm not sure why. But, yeah.
The other
Ooh,
question I had was
sure,
when you were talking about the on-click stuff. I just wanted to like quickly go over that to make
sure,
sure that I
sure,
understand why things were in certain spots.
sure. Now, let's not talk about recycler views for a moment. Okay, think of it like this, right? You got your view, and you got your activity. This is my activity. This is my view. Typically, the only way this knows what to do, the only way that this knows what to do is when this guy hands in some data. So for example, set text, right? In here, I have set text, right? So as an activity, I'm telling this guy what to do. This is a one-way directional communication. And this is the essence of MVC, is that only controller owns the view and the model, right? But if the view wants to communicate back to the activity, if the view wants to communicate back to the activity, I need to have an interface, okay? Because for the view to let the activity know what's happening, it is through the interface or the implementation of that interface. Okay, so with that in mind, let's just go back to here. Now, what this is saying is, okay, hold on, I'm going too quick. So the way that the view communicates back to the controller or the activity is through an interface. Okay, now to do that, my activity, this activity here, it has to implement that interface. In this case, that's the view.onClick listener interface. Okay, so by doing that, that method inside of that interface will get called. The method inside of this interface will get called whenever whatever view in here is getting clicked, right? So, but you don't want all the views to be clickable, right? That's why in let's see here. In this class view holder extends blah 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 blah. This is saying, okay, I am now responsible for listening to the user's clicks. I am now responsible, and I'm going to report my signal. What signal? The signal of the user's tapping on the roll, the roll. That signal is getting passed into the view holder because the view holder agrees to sign this contract, right? The view holder accepts to sign this contract and implements that function. This function, you never call it yourself. This gets called passively. It's getting called passively. So you don't go on click. You don't do that, okay? You specify what you want to do, and then this will get called, okay? It's out of your control to control that, okay? Now, okay, and my second point is, okay, why do I want to have this interface here? It is exactly the same as the on-click listener. I am trying to pass that information back to the big boss, back to the activity, because that's no point of the adapter to know, oh, this is getting clicked or not, because the adapter is not a view controller. It's not an adapter. So I'm going to create a contract that gives activity a superpower to be able to listen for that click, right?
So without that additional interface you created there, you wouldn't be able to pass it back to the boss?
Yes. Because it's useless to pass it to the adapter, right? The adapter doesn't know what to do with it.
Right.
But you have to set an on-click listener because you're trying to have the list clickable, right? And the only place you can do that is in here, because that's where everything begins, right? This is where everything begins. So this is saying, okay, now each of those rows has a superpower which can listen to those clicks. The second point is, okay, well, it's useless for the adapter to listen to those clicks. I need to pass that information back to the activity. How do I do that? I'm going to create another interface. Now, this interface is going to be implemented by the big boss. Who is the big boss? The big boss is the main activity, which is why I got this here. Implements discount adapter the on-click listener. Okay, I'm allowing this main activity to have the superpower, so that in here, let's go back here. So when this is getting called, and the reason why it's able to pass that information back to the main activity is because I set the listener already. In my constructor here, I have already set my listener. Who is going to listen to me? I have all this information here. Who is going to listen to me, right? Okay, well, I'm going to listen to you. Me as a big boss, I'm going to listen to you. How? I'm going to implement that contract, right? So let me go back to and I think this is very important. The reason why I have here is I have that there is that the adapter doesn't know what to do with that information, right? I need to pass that thing along, okay? Well, who am I going to pass that to? Who am I going to pass that to? Pass the information to? To the main activity. How do I do that? I implement the interface, right?
Mm-hmm.
So okay, once I got this down, I need to implement the function inside of the interface, which is this one. Okay. So and again, this is getting called passively. You don't call this yourself. This gets called whenever an action happens on the user side, on the UI side. So basically, one bug, I know, start activity. So start activity intent. Okay. So here, what I'm saying is, I'm going to create a new intent. So whenever a user clicks on the row, I'm going to create a new intent, pass in the marketing and discount information, and I'm going to start the activity by passing that intent in. So here on a detailed activity, I'm able to pull those extras, right? Get extra, get string, get extra, get integer. So I can populate my UI. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Cool. All right, I think I've gone. It's a little bit over time, but if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me.
I did kind of want to ask you something.
Sure.
My biggest thing is following the flow of Android programs. So having done some other programming, I was wondering, have you ever used a debugger? Like if you use it,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
you show like just if it goes to each function, like
Yes, I do. I absolutely do. Absolutely. Debuggers and logging to the logcat, to me, is very useful.
Could you just like show like if
Sure.
you started it and then like if it would go like?
Okay, so yep, sure, no worries. So let's go back to this one, and let me see if I were to debug this. Let's say, hold on, let me think about this. One way that I want to debug this is probably, maybe in wait, no. So, oh yes, one way that I probably would set a debug or a breakpoint is probably in here. Where is it? Okay, it's not. Come on. Oh, there we go. Maybe in here or in here. Because I want to know if my data size is correct, and also if this is incrementing correctly. Because if this is not incrementing correctly, it has to come with, it has to be this function. Something is wrong with this function if this isn't incrementing correctly.
I'm trying to go deeper into the thing.
I do know a little bit.
And also, I mean, there's numerous ways you can
figure out what the from.
Okay.
Sounds like someone's unmuted.
Yeah.
So
can someone unmute?
There's the width, and then you specify some.
I think you can actually, if you can see who it is, you can mute them.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. So another way that you can use it is if you have, okay, there's a difference between a compiler error and a runtime error, right? So to me, debugger comes in as a really useful tool if I have exceptions, because exceptions only gets thrown during the runtime, right? So I might use the debugger to figure out where's that exception is thrown and why is it not handled correctly, things like that. So I'm sorry I can't give you a solid example, but I hope that's useful. So to me, yeah, debugger helps me to look for those exceptions. Okay, so that's how I would use it for my programming. Let's see. Okay. Is there any other questions? I'm not hearing.
One is if you had like a database of, let's say like weekends, for example, and you wanted to only look at databases that have, or only look at columns that have equals whose names are like.
Okay. Okay, that was strange. Is there any questions that you guys want to ask me, or if not, then let's just end here because I gone over like 45 minutes. So. Okay.
Thank you again for everything.
Okay. No, that's fine. If you guys later on want to ask me some more questions, do feel free to just drop your message or your questions in the Recycler view channel, and I can go ahead and tackle those. Okay, great. Thanks. I'm glad this is useful, and all the best. Thank you.